Hi, and welcome to Joining Us, celebrating 50 years of Bands of America. My name is Chuck Henson, and for 35 of those 50 years, I was the primary public address announcer for Bands of America's series of regional and the Grand National Marching Band Championships. Now, over the course of the next 25 episodes, I'm going to do my very best to bring you the people and stories that ultimately have created the excellence that is BOA.
I just was fascinated by this man's marketing ability and the idea that he was putting together a national organization.
Well, one was having hamburgers directly across the table from Dr. Rebelli. So I'm literally watching him eat a hamburger thinking, that's William D. Rebelli having a hamburger in front of me.
Back when Marching Bands of America began in 1975, I and my high school marching band were one of the first to participate.
10 years after the experience, I'm still hearing from kids who thought that was one of the coolest things they ever got to do.
I mean, when you went joining us, those kids went nuts right then. You could have read out of a phone book from that point on. You had them.
They're just going to blow the roof off the place. Like, I get chills thinking about it.
The rifles would spin rifles, then they would catch them and they would fall on the ground at the end of the tune.
Like a death drop.
Yeah.
What's in your blood? If you cut my arm, I'll bleed Bands of America, Music for All.
What Marching Bands of America started was innovative, so new, so exciting.
50 years, a half century? Are you kidding me?
Happy 50th anniversary to Bands of America.
So get your program, find a great seat here in our virtual stadium, and get ready to learn everything you ever wanted to know about Bands of America. Joining us from Bellbrook, Ohio. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Thursday. It's time for a new release of Joining Us. This has been such an incredible journey. We are more than halfway done in creating an oral history of 50 years of Marching Bands of America into Bands of America, and then from there to Music for All. And today we're going to hit the Wayback Machine to 1975 and welcome Dr. Nick Valenziano. Nick, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
You said your son-in-law and daughter's home in Michigan, right?
In Rockford, Michigan.
Oh, very good marching band program in Rockford, Michigan, as I recall.
Oh, yes.
Nick was the first education director for Marching Bands of America and the second executive director. So you were right there at the very beginning of everything, weren't you?
That's correct. Yes, I was.
Let me ask you the million-dollar question. How did you and Larry McCormick connect initially?
Initially, Larry and I met in high school in the band.
Yeah.
Larry was in the percussion section, of course. I was playing clarinet and then picked up saxophone along the way. Larry was maybe a year or two behind me. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. But for some reason, we became fast friends, largely due to Larry's personality, frankly.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Even then, people gravitated to him, and he was a fun guy. From there, Larry went on to University of Illinois, I believe. I was at DePaul University after our high school days.
Right there in Chicago, sure.
Yes, in Chicago. So, as I said, we kind of went our separate ways. In high school, we had great times. We formed a combo. We had a great little combo. We did some Benny stuff and Krupa, and we were into that at that time. But Larry went on to the University of Arkansas, I recall, and I went on right to Northwestern for my master's degree, but we stayed in touch. Following that, we didn't see each other much, but finally did get together again and reformed our group and started playing dances and so on.
So you're doing professional gigs now?
Professional gigs we were doing, yeah.
Very nice.
Very minimal fees, but...
You weren't making a whole lot, I guess.
No, we were having a good time, and it was always fun.
Yeah, of course. At what point did he say to you, I've got this idea?
Well... Larry was always full of ideas. And it was really, honestly, from his high school days, he was kind of antsy and would get in a little trouble now and then. Not serious, but he was always thinking ahead, thinking of other things to do. So when he had formed his company, McCormick Enterprises, out of his garage, we had a couple of young children then. Scott was small and Kevin. And so we'd get together socially some, and he was doing his thing, and I was teaching high school at the time, Schurz High School in Chicago, our alma mater.
Oh, did you? Very good.
Yeah. I replaced our band director, Cap Harvey, after 2 years at another high school. He passed away, and they brought me in. So Larry and I enjoy, and my wife, Nancy, we socially would see each other now and then out to dinner, each other's homes. And Larry was working really hard now after he left teaching with his company. So onward, I don't know exactly when, but he started nagging me to come and work for him.
I could see the relentless approach too.
Yeah. By this time, I was teaching at the U of I, late 60s, U of I in Chicago. And I was prompted to go on for my doctoral degree, which I did start then, 67, I believe. And on through that till 74, working summers at the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Well, so you must have been a tenured professor by that point. You've got your doctorate.
Yes, exactly. I was tenured and, everything was going. I wasn't too happy, to be honest.
What I'm thinking is, how does someone who's a tenured professor who spent his entire educational career building up to that point then say, you know what? No, I'm going to go do this for a startup company?
Well, a couple of things. I wasn't happy. We were stepchild to the Champaign campus music department. We were new. We were young. I had two wonderful department chairmen, and then a third one came along and frankly was not prepared. We had our differences, as some of the other teachers had, and Larry was on my doorstep. He had wanted me to come with him with McCormick Enterprises, but now he had this idea. I said, "What are you talking about, Larry?" And I said, "Tell me more." Well, make a long story short, he finally convinced me in 75, I guess it was, to do it. By that time, I still was employed with the U of I, but I did moonlight with the start of MBA with Gary Beckner and Larry and Joy.
Wow.
So weekends, nights, whatever we had to do, I was there.
Did you know even then, the names that you mentioned, that first, Gary Beckner and you and Larry and Joy?
Yeah.
When you're in the room with those people starting something that's never been done before, do you know you're at the beginning of something special? Did you already have that feeling?
Honestly, no. I was so immersed in it, and having been in education for the previous, 17 years, this was all new to me in the business. It was business world.
Right.
So I was uncertain. Frankly, my wife was uncertain.
What have you done? What have you done?
Yes, what have you done? But I had confidence in Larry and Joy, and I did not know Gary before. He was a great motivator, good fun guy that you just had to keep going, and I felt good about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset or anything. I just wasn't certain that this would really certainly not take off like it did.
Yeah.
Once we got going, and I got a better feel of working with the band directors, making calls, helping Larry with the director, the magazine.
Right. The magazine. That was sent out nationwide, right?
Nationwide, 2,200 schools, I believe.
That was got to be the first of its kind sort of publication. I don't know that there would have been anything prior to that would have gone out nationally as an educational-based piece to support music education.
Correct. There were the national organizations, but they were pigeonholed into particular areas. But it was another one of those ideas that he said, let's do it. And as I said, that time, the first year was in and out, so to speak. More time than I probably should have spent, but it was worth it. He brought in others, Gary Trapinski for one, Don Pescioni, who had worked with him before and then went with DCI.
Was Dr. Tim on the staff by then?
No. Tim was not there. It was just the three of us and Larry, Joy, Larry, Gary, and I, four of us. Larry, of course, was running the business. So going into the second year then, I had resigned in 76, and now full bore, we're going to Whitewater. Larry had some connection there with Mike Davis.
He was the director of bands at University of Wisconsin at that point, right? Yeah.
I think he had been at Oregon High School before. Larry had some connection, maybe had judged a contest, or I'm not sure exactly, but he knew Mike. So that was the way we went.
So that first show in Whitewater, everything was always designed to support the store, right? I mean, basically, McCormick Enterprises was the top of the pyramid, and then this all kind of led toward that, correct?
Correct.
So at what point do things shift that the store is not the top, but the organization is the top? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not now about making cash for a store that's going to sell drums and flags and podiums. This is now about making the world a better place through education. At some point, that shift happened, right?
Yeah, because the idea, to go back a minute, for Larry was, yes, to promote the business. He wanted to promote the activity more, marching bands, which was his specialty, the core. But I honestly, that first year, I'll never forget Larry and I talking just before finals. And I said, Larry, I said, it was the end of the week. I said, I think we did it. He said, Nick, we got it.
Meaning that you pulled off a successful event, or
Yes.
that this is the beginning of something amazing?
This was the beginning. This
Yeah.
was the beginning of something exciting. And certainly at that time, I was totally immersed in it and ready to continue on and build as best I could in my part. It was a struggle that first year, of course. We had a lot of help from the McCormick employees,
Right.
with Whitewater especially, because we needed bodies for all the various things. And I don't remember for sure, if somebody does, help me, if we had just directors or just student workshops, or did we have both?
What I've learned so far is that directors came first.
I think so.
Yeah. And that Tim told me that basically after year 2, there wasn't going to be a year 3 because the finances just weren't going to hold up. And it was
Yeah.
bringing the students in
Yeah.
is what saved all of that.
Yes, that's another big part of it. The other part of it is Beatrice Foods. And Gary Beckner had some connection. And Larry, it was beginning even after that first year into the second year to stretch his profits and expenses with McCormick Enterprises. So Gary reached out to Beatrice Foods. They met with president of Beatrice Foods and said how he felt about it and that we needed help in terms of, they had helped, but it was all kind of material things. And I understand he just wrote a check and said, let's see if we can take care of this.
Well, what a genius idea to have him be at that, if it wasn't the first event, the second event, to hand out trophies.
Yeah,
So that he was
exactly.
there to see it. I mean, you're going to ask this gentleman for thousands of dollars, sight unseen? No, you got to have him there. You just got to see the kids' faces and see the impact this event has on them, right?
Exactly. And it worked.
Yeah.
It did. However, I'm not sure what happened, but Gary decided to leave after the second year, was it? I believe.
Didn't he take that sponsor with him?
Yes. What he did, he left MBA.
Yeah.
And went with Beatrice Foods full-time to begin another program. And almost in competition, you might say.
The Music Bowl events.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Boy, you have all in your...
Well, I know that because when I was in high school from 76 through 80.
Oh,
And we went to the Music Bowl event at Cincinnati
okay.
and competed in that. But I will say to you, and I've said to other people as well, it was a fine event. But in our minds, MBA was still the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I had never even been. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew it was better than what was here in front of me now.
Yeah.
That had to have been a tough blow for you guys to have all of a sudden now there's a competitor.
Well, it was, but we were pretty solid then. And Larry had a lot of good people that were around us. I mentioned Gary. There was Mike Coomer. There was George Parks, Bob Buckner, and on and on. These people who I had never met before were just super. They'd come in, we'd have meetings and exchange ideas and whatnot, and work as clinicians then, of course, many of them. And it was just a great bunch of guys and gals that helped move things along. Gary was missed, but we really didn't skip a beat.
No, you couldn't.
No.
Not with the trajectory you're on. There's no way.
Right.
Were you instrumental in getting the Weekend with the Experts events together as well?
No.
Those were a little later.
Yeah.
So your tenure then was from 75 through 79, 80?
81. In between, of course, after Gary left, when I had taken over the executive director position, we started regionals. And I believe it was Idaho in 78.
A lot of people talk about that show, by the way.
Gary Green, I believe, was there. I think that's where I met Gary.
Yep.
And
Buckner, he was there.
yeah, anyhow, that was first, I believe. And then 79, I believe, was James Madison. Mike Davis had moved there, and we did a regional.
Mhm.
And 79. 81 was the Gator Bowl. And Tim has joined us, I believe, in 79 or 80, but someplace in there. I can't pinpoint it, but as kind of an assistant to Larry.
Yeah.
So he worked with us also. The Gator Bowl was not a great success. The timing, the money involved, the promotion, and things did not go just the way we had hoped, to be frank.
That was the Grand Nationals event, right?
That was the Grand Nationals then, yeah.
So tell me, as you know, starting as an education director with a focus based on your teaching ability and tenure to move into the ED role and then have that for the next 5 or 6 years, how did your focus change going from an educational role to an executive director role?
In some ways, not at all, because as you know, as a band director and leader, you have to take charge. You have to make decisions, and you're the guy that the responsibility is going to, stop there. But I think the main thing was that I had learned through those few years that I had lots of help. I had really good people. Gary Markham came in, must have been right after Gary Beckner left, soon after. And Gary, of course, was a great guy, real terrific help for me. We had excellent secretarial help. Joy was still working, still doing it. But we had a couple other ladies, women that joined with us. We still had help from McCormick Enterprises, basically from the financial side. I didn't have to worry about that. Dick Janik, who was the controller or vice president of finance for Larry. So my total focus was really on organization, overseeing, keeping everybody, happy.
On building those shows, on creating these events, getting
Yeah.
more people attached?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, as I hear you read this list of names of all these people that were around you, it sounds like the perfect storm of what we would say is excellence, really. You've got people from different points in the country that are all coming together to support this one organization. No wonder it blew up the way that it did. I mean, you had the very
Yeah.
best people at your disposal.
Yeah. Tim took over, and of course, Tim was Tim, and
And still is to this day.
and still is. Yeah, absolutely. Last time I saw him, it's been a few years. He was up here for the Michigan Music Educators Conference in January. We had a cup of coffee or whatever together and talked. And then I'd see him down in Indianapolis.
Right.
And then Gillum replaced Gary after a couple of years. And then, he was just a year, as I recall.
Yeah.
Now, I was out, but I still had, Larry and I still talked to each other, saw each other now and then socially. Then Scott came in after Gillum, Scott McCormick.
Well, tell me, what was it that caused you to leave the role that you were in? What came up in your life that you're like, I need to move to something else?
Well, to be honest, and I am being very honest and frank, and I think Larry would appreciate it. Larry and I had a parting of the ways.
Okay.
As best friends we were.
Yeah, that happens.
It was a business decision. The Gator Bowl was not a total success as we had hoped for and planned and spent all of our efforts. I was the executive director. I was the one that was responsible.
Wow.
And I wasn't the only one that was talked to in terms of we got to look a different way and bring in some new people. That's exactly what happened. We had a very good heart-to-heart talk. Dick Janik was there, I recall, Larry and I understood just what was what. We had no hard feelings. We're still great friends to this day.
Clearly. Was it something that just growing too fast?
I think so. I felt that way.
Spreading it thin financially because of the expansive growth?
Yeah. Beatrice was out of it now. And I didn't, and maybe that was part of the problem. I'll take that responsibility. I just didn't think we were ready for it. I know Tim was very excited about it, and Larry was. And it was just, I guess maybe we weren't all in, it wasn't all that we were disagreeing. We had some different ideas at that point.
Yeah.
And you have to man up and say what you have to say.
Did you go from that point to the board of directors, or did you just separate entirely for a while?
No, I separated entirely. I went to work for King Instruments in Eastlake, Ohio.
Right on.
I became educational director for King, a wonderful company.
Yeah.
And had great time. I was part of the marketing department in terms of my contacts with band directors and dealers. I was the go-between with the company. Met regularly with the president, vice president, so on, with what I was doing. I attended most of the conventions, whether state, national, TBA down in Texas, Midwest Band Clinic. I was doing all of those shows, and it was a great time. I was handling all of the artist relationships, Kai Wending, Dizzy.
Really?
Oh, the lead trumpet player with Maynard. I can't remember his name. What a guy.
That's awesome.
In fact, black lacquer trumpet we had made special for him.
Wow.
And just a great time. We'd go out and do workshops. I was out with the clinicians at conventions doing their thing or a workshop for a particular school district. It was all connected with marketing and exposure, and it was just a totally different experience again. I had left education, as you had said, and here I am.
No, I was just saying, you in the beginning, we're talking about you being a tenured professor, and now you're, doing something entirely different.
Yeah.
Does your wife ever say, "I told you so"? You shouldn't have left teaching?
No, she never did. My wife would always say, "Go ahead, do it."
Good. Well, that's the way it should be, right?
Playing gigs, it was, "Go ahead." It gives me some alone time, she still says.
All right, let's take a moment for a quick break because I want to listen to some of your stories. Now, remember, if you've got a special Music for All or Bands of America memory or story, you can record it and be a part of this very 50th anniversary podcast. Just visit musicforall.org/podcast to contribute your story.
Hi, my name is Mark Whitlock, and I'm a longtime music educator and now a current administrator. And I just wanted to share how Bands of America and Music for All have been so special to me in my life. We go back to 1989. I had attended Grand Nationals a few years prior, was really amazed by the quality of bands, and I decided I wanted to get a closer look at Bands of America. So I volunteered to be a swag at the 89 Summer Symposium, which I was with the marching band, and that was the largest marching band on record at the time. But what I remember the most about that experience was the Bands of America staff and the swags working diligently to make sure everyone was seen and everyone was heard in this giant, 1,300, 1,200 piece marching band, that everybody had a wonderful experience, that they were known by name. That was a really big deal. I was really shocked by the intentionality of it all. And so what that taught me was that no matter where I'm at, adult or student, every person deserves to be known by their name, their preferred name, first, last, both, whatever. So that had a big effect on me. And I think between having the structure of icebreaker games, team building games, working on the music, working on making a simple turn, I was really floored by the dedication of the staff. That was my first direct hands-on experience with Bands of America. And it changed the trajectory of my life.
Now, let's rejoin our conversation. So, Nick, after a few years of being unattached to the organization, at some point, do you come back together?
Yeah. It was a funny thing how it happened. I was at King after MBA, so I had put my horns away. I wasn't playing because I was tied up totally with the business end of things. And I understood that, and no longer an educator and so on. But I enjoyed the change and pursued it just with all my heart. What happened was when we moved here, so through this, I was gone in 81, King, 82, 83. I ended up, a good friend of mine had a music store in Brookfield, Illinois. Eddie Ward, who became president of the Musicians Union in Chicago, was needing some help. He heard I was back from King. He had been a King dealer, and DePaul, buddy of mine, he said, "Come on and work for me, Nick." He said, "I need a road man." So I was on the road for a couple of years, visiting the schools, taking care of things for the store, and so on. Ended up back in Chicago, went back to teaching, substitute teaching, mind you.
Oh, wow.
And then a former swag got in touch with me, teaching in Deerfield, Illinois, a northern suburb. He was leaving for work on his master's degree, wanted me to come and sub for him. for the year. I did. I stayed for 13 years.
Who was that swag?
Mark Bothai.
Okay, sure.
I don't know if he worked just a year or worked with Fred Sanford, or he was a percussion guy, but he knew me only as the guy from MBA, and but knew where I was and got a hold of me and so on.
Yeah. So now you're back in the teaching ranks.
Yes, 13 years. Retired in '01.
And what school was that?
It was name changed. It ended up being Caruso Middle School.
Okay.
It was junior high level, but it was a good time for me. I was about 52 years old, 51. I don't recall. And, I could handle that age.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it 20 years earlier, frankly, but I had mellowed and had a great program. Parents that said, I don't know how you do it, how you keep these kids the way you do, and so on. It was a great relationship in Deerfield. I retired in '01. I had triple bypass in February of '02, and we moved to Grand Rapids in October of '02.
Well, Nick, let me ask you, you had separated from Bands of America. You'd gone your own way. You're doing the King thing. And then at some point you come back together with Bands of America, right?
Yes. And the reason, frankly, as I said, I would see Larry and Joy now and then, and I know Scott was doing a great job in the concert program that started and so on. A lot of those things I kind of knew about from a distance, but I was too busy gigging and teaching and so on. So what happened when we moved here, a good friend of mine, we became friends at DePaul, had passed away just as I had retired in Deerfield. But my daughter was now marrying a guy up here, super guy, as it turns out, and we're moving to Grand Rapids. So after surgery, we moved in October, sold the house, and I didn't know anyone here. I started just going to concerts and meeting people and ended up playing in a couple groups. But this friend of mine from Chicago who had passed away, his wife was still here. And we see her a little bit. And she said to me one day, Nick, my granddaughter at Jenison High School, and they have a wonderful band. And I thought maybe you'd like to go and see them. This was soon after we moved here, now that I recall.
Yeah.
And it was the Jenison Marching Band. We went to a contest. We went to another one. I said, boy, this is a good band. Things have changed.
Great program at Jenison. Great program. Yeah.
Yes. Great program. And I said, wow, this is different from when, bands have changed.
From the 1980 Bands of America bands, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a metamorphosis that happened in those probably 6 years that was crazy for marching band.
Yes. So we went a couple years there. Then finally, she said to me one day, they're going to be in Indianapolis for this big thing. And I said, oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I heard of it.
I said, that's the Grand Nationals. She says, do you want to go? I said, okay, let's go. So Nancy, my wife, and Rosemary, our friend, took off for Indianapolis. I didn't know what I was going to do. I found the old stadium was the dome there. I think it still was. Yeah, it was still the dome.
It was in the RCA Dome then, yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because you're on your way to Grand Nationals. You haven't been in, a decade now?
Yeah.
So how do you feel when you're walking up to that stadium and there are the banners and there are the kids warming up and this is everything you started?
Yeah, it was exhilarating, to be honest. Yeah, it was. You're right. All the buses and everything. And
yeah.
And I didn't have a ticket or anything to get in.
I think you pretty much get a pass.
And parking and whatever. You learn to wing it along the way. And I just went up to the door. I'll never forget this. And the fellow there asked me for tickets. I said, I don't have any tickets. I said, is Scott McCormick here? He said, who? I said, Scott McCormick.
Well, you were probably talking to a volunteer or a stadium employee that wasn't part of the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he brought someone else over, and it was a young swag, evidently. And I said, I'd like to see Scott McCormick if possible. He says, well, who are you? And I told him my name. I said, please, just do it. I said, I'm sorry to bother you or whatever.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes later, he comes back. He says, come on with me. And he took us right up to Scott.
Yeah.
So that was how I got back into the fold, so to speak.
Yeah.
But more directly than my grandsons coming along a few years later in the Rockford Marching Band.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And here we are.
They have a great program.
Great
there.
program.
It's so funny. I say, and you could appreciate this because I say there were kids in the band when I started who have grandkids in the band now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you think about it, when I think about it, at least, I mean, who would have ever thought? You asked me way back, did I ever think that it would become something big?
Yeah.
At the time, I had honestly, no. And now to think and see these last several years that I have been back involved, it is amazing. And my grandsons have taken to it tremendously,
Yeah.
have enjoyed it. One is still in high school. He's a mellow player, plays oboe in the wind ensemble. He plays principal oboe in the Grand Rapids Youth Orchestra. The middle grandson was drum major at Rockford for 3 years. So all three of them have participated in Grand Nationals. And this time, this middle grandson, Tom, will now be drum major in front of the Michigan State Band appearing in exhibition.
I love that story. Have you allowed yourself a moment to just be present in the building? I said this to Larry. The last time I physically saw Larry was 2022 or something. He and Joy came up to the booth and they were looking out, onto the stadium. And I looked at him and I said, did you ever in your wildest dreams envision this? You could just see his heart just swell inside it. And you must have those same feelings.
I do. I really do, because, it was a grind at first. And like you said, uncertainties. And even though I was away from it for a number of years, I wasn't ever away from it because Larry and I were friends. I would hear things going on, but my interest was really not there anymore. And of course, going on into retirement and conducting shows and playing in 2 or 3 different groups, and all of that was just, what I wanted to be doing at the time.
But you put it on the path that it's on to go where it is today. You did that.
Well, I was part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say I was, very happy to say I was.
Let me ask you a question you may need to think on a little bit.
Sure.
Are there any moments that happened during your tenure as executive director that you can think of that go, wow, what a story? Or things that, I obviously, as a public address announcer, I have a ton of horrible mistakes I've made on a microphone.
Yeah.
But any stories particularly that come to mind about things that happened while you were doing your thing that people would enjoy?
After long years away, I find out a wonderful person that is part of the staff with BOA. And Cam was a student.
Yeah, Cam's been there almost as long as everyone, yeah.
I don't know if it was the first or wasn't the first, either second or third.
She was with Chesaning High School.
From Chesaning, Chesaning, Michigan. Wonderful band. And lo and behold, all these years later, I hear from her, I hear from Eric Martin for election to the Hall of Fame.
That's right. 2015, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and well-deserved, of course.
And with Cam, it was such an amazing. I said, you were there? She says, Nick, I remember you running around on that golf cart like a crazy man, because I was going from here to there, from the stadium to this workshop, that workshop, whatever. She remembered that so well. And I sent her the only memorabilia when we moved. We were in a retirement home at this time. When we moved, I had to get rid of a lot of things. And a lot of it was memorabilia, of course, from a lot of areas. And the only thing I kept from MBA was an old T-shirt and a patch, an MBA patch.
Really?
And I mailed it to Cam, this past year, a year ago maybe. And I said, I just have to do this now because it's here. And I
love that. She must have absolutely loved that.
She loved it and sent me a photo back of her in that same T-shirt. Not my T-shirt, but she had one.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, Cam has a collection of T-shirts, and I'm going to talk to her about that, but it's a whole closet of nothing but Bands of America T-shirts. Yeah. She saves them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a nice gesture on your part, though. That's fantastic.
For me, in my long years now past, soon to be 89 next month, I have been so gifted by the Lord for the people I've met through the work I've done, my family who has supported me totally, and people like Larry and others, Joy, have been a big part of our lives. And it's amazing when you get to this point in life how you have to just stop and, like you said, take a moment and think about some of these things.
Yeah. Because we don't think about them when they're happening.
No.
We don't understand the full breadth of what we're doing while we're doing it. It takes retrospect. It takes time to go back and look at those things.
Yeah, it does. When I think about when I first saw the change, when I went down there with my friend Rosemary and saw the bands. My gosh, what's going on here? And there's some things I really like. I've watched now very closely since my grandsons have been involved.
I've got to imagine at a Rockford rehearsal, you're the guy, like you got to have the most breadth of knowledge of this activity of of anyone in the building. Do you give input to the current director, or do you just watch and smile?
Brian Phillips is, his own man. I've attended many rehearsals, many performances, wonderful wind ensemble, concert bands.
Yeah.
And with the marching band, I've seen numerous rehearsals. I think he's one of the best directors going. I don't say anything unless I'm asked.
There you go.
I have made a couple comments, and this is not what I want to do. Things have changed so much, and I'm old-fashioned. And the changes, some I like and some I don't like, frankly.
Sure. Well, I hope he recognizes you as the marching band royalty that you are.
Oh, there's no question about it. Actually, it was Cam at a music educators conference. I stopped at the booth to say hello, whatever number of years this was, maybe just when my grandson had first got into the marching band. And we were talking, and this gentleman comes by, and she says, "Excuse me a minute, Nick." And she talks to him, and then she brings him over to me. And she says, "I want you to meet Dr. Nick Valenziano. He's one of the founders of Marching Bands of America." And he jumps back. He says, "What?" He said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "Why haven't you ever?" I had met him briefly, introduced to him a couple of times. At that point, I had not been involved watching the rehearsals and so on. And he was aghast. "Why didn't you tell me?"
Wait, and this is the director at Rockford? Didn't know that you were the original?
No, I'd never said anything. I had never said anything. I had been to concerts. I had been, the boys had been through junior high now or middle school and now in high school. But I just was not the type of person to go around, doing things like that.
That is awesome.
But he was just totally aghast. And,
I can imagine. And probably a little embarrassed that he didn't know that, really.
No, he wouldn't know. The name is totally different from my grandson's, our last names.
Right.
So he had no idea.
That's very funny. So, Nick, as we look toward the future for an organization that you helped to found, where would you like to see Music for All head for the next 50 years?
That's a big question.
It's a big question. I mean, given that you were there at the beginning and saw the focus of what the organization was going to be then, you see it now, you have grandchildren participating in it now. Where does it go from here?
That's a tough question. To be honest, I don't know that I've given it a lot of thought. As I mentioned, there are things that I really like that have happened, and there are things that I don't care for. I think what has developed over the years is just a tremendous opportunity for young people. I never thought my grandchildren would be involved with anything like this. Just students, young children. To be in a situation like this is, as Larry coined way back, what was a positive, life-changing experience. These students don't realize at the time they're doing it, that it's a profound effect on their future. What they're learning, the discipline, the camaraderie, all of this that we talk about. But the excellence also that they strive for. And whether you win or lose, we don't lose. And I would hope that that would continue in that manner. It's very competitive. This is one of the things that I don't like a lot, is how competitive it's become, because unless the director is doing what I think they should do and use this as a learning experience, winning and not having the top prize is not the most important thing. It's not the end result. As I said, it's a tremendous experience. It's a great learning experience. As far as the future, I certainly would hope that it doesn't become so large that, like so many things, they become just too big to function in a positive way. It's got to be controlled. How far, how much more? As I said, I honestly have not put a lot of thought into it.
Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Nick Valenziano, we wouldn't be here today without you. So on behalf of everyone who's ever touched this organization over the last 50 years, thank you. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for what you've contributed, because it wouldn't be the same. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would want to mention?
the main thing is that I really appreciate all the folks that have been involved and have really gone out of their way to make this thing work and show students, parents, school administrators what a great, great activity, if we want to call it that, it is for the kids.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate all of that, and I think that we're well on track to make that happen. You're the best. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Joining Us podcast. We are celebrating 50 years of Music for All and Bands of America. Do you have your own story or memory to share? Well, I want to hear it. You can record your own story by visiting musicforall.org/podcasts. We may just include your voice in a future episode. Hey, thanks to Yamaha, our national presenting sponsor, and don't forget to make sure you're subscribed to the Music for All Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank Ben and Laura from the team at Music for All for making this happen and lining up all of our guests. And of course, the way it sounds, that's the magic of our executive producer, Patrick Keller. I'm Chuck Henson. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on Joining Us. Joining us from Avon, Indiana.